Hi guys, so welcome to my Sunday live. It is Sunday the 4th of July, so happy 4th of July to all those Americans out there, and happy 4th of July to everybody, because I'm always up for an opportunity to celebrate life. Definitely. So I didn't do a live last week. Some of you may recall. I had a lot on, a lot of training, a lot of prep and all sorts. So yeah, I decided to sort of give myself a little bit of time, which actually, when I put it out there, which when I do, I have to say I always have a little bit of mixed feeling, because I want to be there and be present and sort of connect with people and so on. So when I sort of decide, I just need that bit of time, I'll be honest, yeah, I still have that little bit of mixed feeling around it. But I know I'm doing the right thing for me. And so when I just said to people, oh, I need to take a bit of time for myself that particular week, I had a lot of comments actually on my Facebook from people saying, yeah, absolutely, you deserve it, you need to take that time, and really supportive comments, which made me feel, really sort of quite supported, and I felt quite affirmed in the sense that you were saying, yes, absolutely, of course, take this time. So it felt really good, to have that sort of feedback and that acknowledgement. So yeah, so thank you guys. So as some of you may be aware by now, I have been reflecting on my journal that I started in lockdown, in the original lockdown way back March 2020, and I've been following this journal I created on 2 pages generally, or 2 inserts to the journal. One was a daily Dear Mom, and another one was a daily Dear Kaylee, my daughter. And I found this as a really cathartic way to be able to connect to massively, well, the 2 most key important people in my life. The difference being that my mum, and in fact it was yesterday, July the 3rd, that she actually died 22 years ago now, which is really frightening. And I say frightening from the perspective that it's like silly, 22 years. On the one hand, it feels like not that long ago, but actually, if I'm really honest, I don't know, on the other hand, it feels like a lifetime ago to not have it in my life. So I think creating that journal, trying to communicate in a way, perhaps stuff that I really would have wanted to have had in reality, to connect my mum and my daughter together, I realised was really important. So I've done that through this journaling. So I'm going to read to you a couple of inserts from the journal, and the first one is Monday the 20th of April 2020, so remember this is back last year. So it says, Dear Mum, I did a live yesterday, and I was sharing about different emotions and feelings, particularly shame. I was thinking about how protective you were to us, and there were times where I know you would have felt shame, embarrassment, anger and resentment, like when Dad would come up the road drunk, singing Elvis at the top of his lungs for everyone to hear. I know you didn't do it purposefully, but I think sometimes you shut certain conversations down, particularly perhaps if you were frustrated or annoyed or tired, or sometimes you didn't have an answer for things, you may have shut conversations down then. It used to make me feel nervous at times when I wanted to ask you things, Like, for example, when I really wanted to go out with my friends, to ask you that, I'd really have to build myself up and I'd feel quite nervous about that. So that was my first insert. And what struck me was I think that this sort of really showed that I think when I was younger, even then, I knew I'd picked up probably mom's emotions and mom's feelings. So I think when she was feeling tension, when she was feeling frustrated, angry, upset, whatever, I think I knew that. I really felt that. I think when we're younger, we absorb stuff more. I'm doing that. I think we absorb stuff more in our bodies. We don't necessarily understand it or kind of always put our finger on it, but we experience it in our bodies. And so I would have known and understood that there was a level of angst, as I said, frustration, annoyance, whatever. And so I think that when I was then wanting to ask mom something about something I wanted to do, I think that build up of, okay, you know, going to ask and then breathe again, okay, give it a few more seconds or another minute, I'm going to ask now. I think part of that was because I had some, you know, experience of her perhaps level of annoyance or irritation or frustration and so forth. I think that would perhaps build in me. Maybe not, you know, in quite the same way, but I do really look back and feel that there was definitely something I'd sort of picked up, you know, maybe sort of internalised some way. But actually, interestingly, when I look back now, but you know, I wouldn't have known that then. I was really experiencing, I think, a lot of perhaps somebody else's tension and frustration and angst. You know, it didn't necessarily come from me, I think, straight away. I think I would have picked that up from my mum as well. So in the next insert, which is again the Monday, 20th of April 2020, I've put, Dear Kaylee, I was writing to my mum and sharing links to when we were younger and how she would feel angry and resentful with Dad if he was singing and drunk coming up the road. That would mean we all felt the sense of tension and apprehension. I always wanted to make sure I created a calmer environment for you. There were other things that I did with my mum that I actually really enjoyed, like singing to the records and doing jigsaws together. I know you and me like doing these things together as well, so I feel it's nice because it makes me feel connected to my mum with you. What was interesting about this was, and I was thinking about it, I was thinking, okay, so this week I've been doing my mental health first aid practitioner training, and it's roughly, it's so many days over a month with tasks in between. So I'm literally, well, if a third, if that really, the way through at the moment. But it was quite intense. There was a lot to it. It was all online, and so a couple of things that we were sort of mindful of was actually looking after ourselves and revisiting our own mental well-being as well. So yes, essentially the course is, you know, training as a practitioner to enable others in relation to understanding their own mental health and how they support other people. But I think it became more and more important and apparent that for us to be able to do that for others, we absolutely need to do that for ourselves first. Hi Mel, I am well, thank you. And it's an easy thing to say, but actually, believe it or not, well, you may believe it, I think that when you focused on getting, you know, you've been really busy and you're trying to help other people and you've got 101 other things to do, I think it's very easy to put yourself a little bit further down the list, to look after yourself. And although I think that goes for men and women, definitely, I think because of messages and social conditioning that I think often females in particular tend to grow up with, I do think there tends to be even more of a of a focus and a stress on women tending to feel that, you know, they need to put themselves last in the list, if you like, beyond anything and everybody else. And yet, as I said, I think it's really important that you look after yourself first. There's that whole, you know, analogy I'm sure many of you have heard before, you know, when people who say are in a plane and they say, oh, if something was to happen, and you know, were told, okay, with the plane's going down, that there's some emergency, that a natural instinct is for people to actually give the oxygen mask to somebody they're with first, particularly if it was a child. But actually what they say is you need to put your own oxygen mask on first, because otherwise you won't have the oxygen, you know, and the ability to breathe, to be able to actually help another person and do that for them and support them. So it's really vital. So I'd had this, sound really sad, this is, like, I mean, when I say sad, I'm like just ridiculous really. I bought a jigsaw, I keep telling myself it wasn't that long ago. If I'm really honest, it was probably near on 6-7 years ago. That's what I mean by sad. So I bought this jigsaw, 1,000-piece jigsaw. I bought a nice case, a zipped case, for the jigsaw to go into it. And I was determined, I really wanted to do a jigsaw and spend time with that. And as I said earlier, that has lots of connections for me. Particularly enjoyed, you know, with my mum, and that's what my mum did with us, amongst other things, and also really enjoyed that with Kaylee. And so this jigsaw puzzle, I kept telling myself, right, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, and a few months, and then more months, and then a few years went by, and it was still sitting in the box in the cellophane. I hadn't opened it, and there was the case. So this week started the practitioner training, and one of the things at some point we were encouraged to do was to consider a happiness hour. And at first I was racking my brains for what I was going to do, and then eventually I thought, oh, do you know what, this is my moment, this is my opportunity. So what I did was I actually took the cellophane off, I opened the box, I opened the case, and big achievement as far as I'm concerned, not only have I opened it, but I've now separated out all the straight pieces and the four corners. I haven't put it together, but the straight pieces separated and all the other pieces are. And this is a massive step forward. But joking aside, part of sharing that is because this was something that I really, you know, I enjoy. I think it's really therapeutic. I really wanted to do. And yet I just kept, you know, putting it off for such a long time. So I felt really good when I did that. Another thing that I did was, because we were doing the training online, it was really intense. And I'm not somebody who tends to suffer from sort of headaches, but I have to say, there was one particular day, it might have even been the first day to be honest, where by about lunchtime, I could feel that it was like the pressure, the top and the back of my head, it felt really heavy as well. And as I said, it was a really full on, a lot of stuff online. So when I had that sort of bit of time at the lunchtime, I just had a moment where I thought, oh, do you know what? Right, I'm going to do something that I keep saying to myself I'm going to do, and I don't tend to do a lot, which is love the music, love moving, love dancing. So just stick anything on, doesn't matter what it is, CD player, and just move around, just move, just dance, move your body for 5 minutes. So that was something else that I hadn't done for a long time, and I did, because it's literally came off the online training, I was just booging around the room, moving, dance or expressive movement, whatever you want to call it, and it really helped. It shifted something, it lifted me. My head definitely wasn't feeling as heavy. I didn't feel that pressure so much. And what struck me was I was thinking about the notion of looking after ourselves and well-being, and especially looking after our own mental well-being. And I thought, that jigsaw, I know this would happen this hour, to give ourselves, I'll be really honest, and I told them that, I was like, I think I probably did about 20-25 minutes because of all the other stuff, I was like, no, I need to do other things as well. But I gave it some time. 5 minutes in that particular day of moving around, having a bit of a dance to a bit of music. And actually, yes, it made me feel better. It was getting me out of my head as well, which you know, I think is really important, into your body. And it was really good for my mental well-being. But it only needed to be a small amount of time. And I think that's really important. I think I often tell myself, oh, yeah, I know I could do with doing X, Y, and Z for myself, but then almost make up it's just going to take so much longer than what it needs to. But actually, 20 minutes of doing some jigsaw, 5 minutes another point of, you know, dancing around the room, doesn't have to be such a long amount of time, and yet it still made a difference. And it's that old, you know, cliche, if you like, which is, you know, it's all the small things that build up to actually affect the bigger things. And so I really, you know, appreciated and recognised these smaller things that I could and can do, and I'm doing for my own mental well-being, that they really all add up to impact on the, you know, the bigger picture and the bigger sort of mental well-being for myself as well. I did also take a bit of time to create some healthy lunch, sort of salad and a bit of fish and so on. And was drinking more water as well. When I was on the training, I was like, right, make sure, and I had a glass of water next to me. So it's something I keep saying to myself, drink more water. So yeah, it's really interesting that the training is essentially about being a mental health first aid practitioner to deliver the mental health first aid courses, to you know, enable and support others, and yeah, train and educate other people to enable others. And yet I think so far, I think the biggest sort of impact, if you like, it's had for me is to really be more considerate and mindful of how I'm actually looking after my own mental well-being as well. Mel, you need to slow down, you work too oh, I love you, Mel. You work too hard to book a holiday. Yeah, thank you. I'll thank you. That's made me laugh and smile. And I'm laughing and smiling, Mel, because you are absolutely right. Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that. Thank you. I'm going to read the next excerpt in the journal. So this is Tuesday, the 22nd of April 2020. So this one says, Dear Mum, it's funny how at times I can have a feeling of not quite doing enough or not quite making enough impact. And yet I know on another level I'm only one person. I recall from a drama therapy autobiography putting a quote on, and it says, I am one person, but I will not allow what I can't do to affect what I can do. Something I've yet to take fully on board. Now that was put there 1998 to 1999. Then I put, and although I don't let what I can't do affect me currently, I still at times have perhaps a sense of needing or wanting to have even more impact, and at times perhaps question my alignment with other things that I'm involved in. And then I put, but also I'm really interested in so many things relating to life and to purpose and to people generally. I recall doing the volunteer work at Mary Stevens Hospice and feeling really, really comfortable. I've also said that I would like to support Louise when she looks at some areas around loss again. Now, the interesting thing about this was, let's say, last April 2020, and actually it's been fairly recently. I mean, one of my colleagues, Louise, with Louise Creswick, we've had, you know, various things that we've been doing together. I mean, we got to know each other through the co-coaching forum, but I really love, you know, her work and what she does, and her coaching is particularly around loss and bereavement, and she's developing a lot more of her sort of counselling sort of work at the moment. So in fact we're actually we're in very early stages, but we are exploring the idea and possibility of creating some coach training, but specifically more for coaches around bereavement and loss. So and this would be through accredited readers, is what we're thinking, through the ICF. So something that has moved forward and progressed a little bit, something that I mentioned last April, but still something that we'll probably consider doing as well. Jake says, no screaming with no screaming with heart failure today then, Mandy got sore. No, because England aren't playing today, Jake, but totally with you on that. Maybe later on in the week. Well, let's hope for the good reasons. So the other insert then, which was again Tuesday the 22nd of April, was Dear Kaylee. And it says, Dear Kaylee, I remember when I tried to talk about the loss of our dog Jake and how you continually got upset and wanted to avoid the conversation. And then at some point a long while afterwards, you were saying how painful it felt and how you could not imagine being able to cope with the loss of people if you can't cope with the loss of Jake. But I also recall at some point somebody else saying to me that the loss of pets can be a gift, which might sound a little bit strange, because it can prepare us for other losses. So even though it's difficult, it can still be important to explore other losses. The one inevitable thing about life is loss and change. So the more we can prepare and adapt, the better. And I believe it's really important to talk about death in a healthy way. I used to feel really anxious talking about death, as I wasn't convinced I knew or understood where I may go when I die. But in some ways, the more you can be open and discuss your fears and concerns and any doubts, the better, because it actually normalises it and makes it okay. And I've found that certainly since I actually, I used to feel a bit sort of guilty that because going to sort of church and then having those doubts and question marks, I used to feel a bit guilty then about the thought of, well, I feel guilty because I'm not 100% convinced, and actually, about where I might go at the end of my life. But at the same time, the thought of having this life end and then a sense of this not knowing, is it like, is it silence? Is it nothing? Is there something else? I think I used to find that, I went through a phase where I used to find that really quite hard to imagine and even consider this whole, concept. But as I said, I think that certainly doing the volunteering work at Mary Stephen's Hospice really helped, because it's really interesting. I felt very comfortable, very at home, and that I didn't feel frightened or scared about any of that at all. And as I said, I think the more I have opened up conversations about loss and death and bereavement, the easier it's become. And also delivering some of the bereavement and loss courses. I think particularly some of the stuff that I've also done at Furcroft with those particular courses have really helped. And actually I find the particular focus on the bereavement and loss really quite inspiring. I think to enable others to see that there can be some real positive energy and positive conversations, and the idea that you can have some influence and empowerment over yours and others, loss and end of life conversations, I think is vital. And I think we often can shy away from that, and I just think it's not the reality of life, really. Mel, visit a place where you went as a little girl. That's a really great idea, Mel. I like that. I think you're on form, Mel. Thank you. So I'm going to leave my sort of journaling, if you like, there at the moment, and I'm going to share a couple of other sort of things with you. I know sometimes, you know, I do like a sort of word of the day. I also have sometimes questions and random facts as well. Oh, thank you, Mel. Mel said it helped me a lot when I did the course. That's really kind and really supportive as well, so thank you. So I think I'm going to give you a word of the day first. Now this one might sound like nothing special, if you like. So the word is pillbox. Pillbox. Now, at first I thought, doesn't really seem like there's much to it, and it's probably only sound like there was only one meaning. But actually, I was quite intrigued by it because, yes, at first it said a small container for pills. But then it says a small fortified enclosure used for firing weapons and or for observing things. It's also a small brimless hat with a flat top and straight sides. And then it's also something small or ineffectual. Now the etymology, which is, you know, the background to how it's created as a word and where it comes from. So it comes from pill, which is from Latin pillula, and in fact the meaning is little ball. So from a pillar, ball, and then box, which is from the Old English Latin buxis, which comes from pixis, and this is called boxwood box. And then what I really liked, it said from the Greek pixis or pycox, and it was called a box tree. And I just thought this was really quite lovely to think that this word pillbox had got a lot more, not only a lot more meanings, but also the background to how it's created and where it comes from. I personally, I know I've got a particular love of this, but I think that this brings words to life. It really enables you to get a bigger feel, a sense of where they come from, where did they originate, what were their original meanings. So I really love this. And a couple of uses, so they put it into sentences, and it says a few yards from a Czech army pillbox built as a defence against Nazi Germany, the archaeologists discovered a little cattle bone. So they actually had this pillbox which was built as a defence, and I can almost imagine, you know, seeing them looking through it. Then another quote, it says, "Honey touched the pillbox sitting on top of her head, still there covering her blonde hair's dark roots." I found that quite touching, quite sweet actually. So that was where they obviously had a small brimless hat on. And then somebody else had referenced this, and it says, "We do not buy the line that it was just a pillbox thrown by some kids. The damage was too extensive." So that's obviously saying it's not small and ineffectual as well. So that was one particular word. Now, the second one I'm going to give you, and I don't know whether you've heard of this, dobber. So D-O-B-B-E-R. And it's got a number of meanings. And I think when I saw this word, my first thought was a bit like dobbing somebody in. And in fact, a dobber is an informer. But then what I didn't realise was the other meanings. So a dobber in cricket is a bowler, particularly a slow bowler. A dobber, another meaning, is also a float for a fishing line. And another meaning is a dobber is a large marble. I used to love, in fact, that's something else it reminded me of. I used to love playing marbles when we were younger. In fact, I've still actually got a number of glasses and bottles of marbles around. I do tend to use them probably more as objects for my supervision, for my work with my coaching and my therapy, for use it as a metaphor. But I used to really love enjoying playing marbles when I was younger. And so the etymology in terms of where these come from, for the informer and for the bowler in cricket, it comes from to dob, which is either to inform, to put down, or to throw. And for the float for the fishing line, that comes from Dutch dobber, which means float or cork. And then for a large marble, that comes from dob, which is a variant of dab, which is almost seen as a lump. So I just found that those meanings of those two particular words really, really interesting. And as I said, I find for me the understanding, seeing where it come from, where it originated from, putting it in its context, yeah, really sort of brings it to life too. So my random facts. You know I love me random facts. Did you know, everyone's going no, did you know that cows kill more Americans each year than sharks do? I've got to say I was really quite shocked by that. And it says, while sharks account for about 53 bites per year, only one of those ends up being fatal. Cows, on the other hand, particularly the hooves, so that's what does it, kill around 20 people per year. So there you go. Cows, particularly in relation to their hooves, in America, kill around 20 people per year, whereas sharks apparently only actually kill one person. So just thought that was a really interesting random fact myself, which is why I chose them. Now I'm going to share with you a question, and you know I love my questions and I'm always sharing questions, and I'll tell you in a minute why I really like this one. So the question says, now that it's behind you, what did you do last week that was memorable? So I'll read it again. Now that it's behind you, what did you do last week that was memorable? Now, I can say straight off, because it took me so long to make it happen, that what was memorable for me, and it's last week, but I'm sort of, you know, egging it at the beginning of this week, really. It's actually starting the jigsaw and open the jigsaw up, because, you know, I'd been meaning to do it for such a long time, and I really sort of set my mind on it. So eventually I've opened the box and, as I said earlier, got all my straight pieces out. And what I really liked about this question was the thought that, well, if you ask yourself that, now that it's behind you, what did you do last week that was memorable? If nothing really comes to mind fairly quickly, and you're really having to scratch your brain to really get a sense of, well, what was that, then I would then be questioning and getting people to ask of themselves, so what is it that you're, you know, what do you need to do more of to really enable yourself to feel that you're doing things that you are memorable, that really stand out for you, that you're linking and connecting with, maybe that you feel you're enjoying, you feel more passionate about. So that's what struck me about this question, that if, particularly, you know, it's great if you've got things that are memorable as well, because then that's where it connects with stuff that really energises and brings energy. But that struck me, that if you were struggling to find that, then I think it's really quite important. It tells you something about, well, what else is it then that I need to be creating, to be exploring, to be really, you know, bringing into my life that's going to enable that more. So that was the question in particular. Mel says Furcroft, totally with you on there, Mel. So I shall read a poem. This is actually one of my own poems. You know, sometimes I read my own, and then sometimes I've been reading a few others. So this week I'm actually going to read one of my own, and this one is called Intensity. So, intensity. Pressure, tension, full head, head full. Explosion, overwhelm, bend over, overbend, stretching neck from side to side, hearing the tiny cracks and crunches, crunch to loosen, crunch to bite, bite size, chunking, chunky, to fit, not fitting in, making it fit, making me fit in, being okay not to fit in, to be me, to own all of my own, to own my story, to take ownership of my life, my ability to create, to be creative, the creative, the creator, the crater, the whole, the volcano, the heart rising to an eruption, to spew forth and let it ooze, let it flow, flowing out through the cracks, the crevices, meandering through the lines, lines already present, lines emerging from the heat that were not there previously, lines and marks, marks to say I've been here, marks to say I am here. I am making my mark. I have made my mark, marking my stamp, marking my footprint, marking with brushstrokes, marking with words, marking with the pen, marking till there is no more. No more marking. The marking stops. The noise stops. It becomes quiet. In the silence, I can hear breath until the breath stops. To stop breathing, to come to a full stop. And that was called intensity. So we're finally, not long just before the end of my live, I'm going to sing my chosen song this week. This actually came about because, you know, I said earlier I stuck the CD player on. It was a compilation of different things, and this one happened to be on. Rather than flicking through, I was like, right, I'm going to go for that one. And I used to actually really love this when I was younger. I used to dance away to this as well. So, as always, please feel free to sing along, dance along, jig along, whether it's now, whether it's later, whenever you're listening to it. So, just bear with me a minute, guys. Sisters with me, we are family. Get up everybody and sing. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up everybody and sing. Everyone can see we're together as we walk on by, and we fly birds of a feather. I won't tell no lie. All of the people around us, they say, can they be that close? Just let me state for the record, we're giving love in a family dose. We are family, yeah, yeah. Got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up everybody and sing. We are family, yeah, yeah. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up everybody and sing. Life is fun and we've just begun to get our share of this world's delights. High hopes we have for the future and our goals in sight. No, we don't get depressed, cause here's what we call our golden rule. Have faith in you and the things you do, you won't go wrong. This is our family jewel. We are family, hey, yeah, yeah. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up everybody and sing. We are family, yeah, yeah. I got all my sisters in me. We are family. Get up everybody and sing. So that was my song, We Are Family. It's always yeah, like I said, you know, picks you up, brings your energy up. So, and if it isn't that one and there's something else you like, just be reminded that I think put on a song, move to your heart's content, don't worry about anybody sort of watching. If you're bothered about people watching, then do it by yourself, and just enjoy, you know, just express yourself, just have a real sort of sing-along. So guys, thank you for watching my live, whatever point that is. I hope that you've gained something from the live. So I say, whether that be sharing my reflections on the journal, could be, you know, inspired by my meanings of my words, my random facts, the question that I posed, maybe, you know, my poem, or just being reminded of how great it is to have a little bit of music, a bit of yeah, a bit of sound and energy in life as well. So have a really good week. You know where I am, you know you can contact me, so please feel free to call or email you need any sort of connection at all, and I shall hopefully, all being well, see you next week. So thank you guys, take care, bye.